Mount Pirongia Forest Park is situated on the outskirts of Hamilton. On Friday the 22nd of August 2014, the Department of Conservation, with Waikato Regional Council's support, used helicopters to aerially spread 1080 poison across most of the forested area. The operation was undertaken to kill possums and rats. In 2007, a similar 1080 poison drop across the mountain was hailed a success by the Waikato Regional Council, despite concerns from farmers. The farmers were concerned about contamination, including to drinking water. There are 9 known abstraction points on Mount Pirongia. Flight charts show that on the 22nd of August 2014, poisonous baits were cast directly across and into practically all streams and waterways. The New Zealand manufacturer's 1080 poison warning label states, "Take measures to minimise the chance of baits accidentally entering any body of water," and "harmful to aquatic organisms." When baits hit the water, they are uptaken by freshwater crayfish and other aquatic wildlife. These crustaceans can grow up to 8 centimetres long and form part of the diet of native birds, trout and eels. In this aerial drop, like others, poisonous baits did not accidentally enter the water. The resource consent holder was permitted to drop the poison directly into it. 5 water samples were taken from the Te Awamutu water intake for 1080 poison residue testing. The samples returned a negative result. That's not surprising though. Locals demanded an exclusion zone, so there was no 1080 poison dropped into the small water catchment. The 8 other known water abstraction sites had no exclusion zones, and 1080 poison was dropped directly into their catchments. The helicopters spread a total of 32,000 kilos of 1080 poison bait across 16,000 hectares of forest, enough to kill 240,000 people, almost double the population of Hamilton. This toxicity chart shows the lethal doses per hectare. The area is surrounded by farms and crisscrossed with walking tracks. Most walking tracks are open to the public while these drops commence. However, tracks are required to be cleared of baits by contractors within 24 hours of the drop. In this drop, an average of 166 baits were cast across every hectare. This is our first possum for the day, and I just came across this. It's a doe, female, and when I came over it was still breathing. It's 20 to 10 in the morning. Possums are not native to New Zealand and are targeted because they browse forests. However, they do provide some benefits. Scientists found that possums are responsible for a large portion of forest seed rain. Possums may now be the only dispersal agents for large-seeded native species in many areas. This native moorpork doesn't spread seed, but he does eat rats, mice and possum joeys, some poisoned with 1080. This is another possum that's 12:15. This one's got rigor mortis, whereas the one this morning, earlier, around 10 o'clock or 9:45, was still warm and just died. He's almost quite cute, this little fella. Look at him, look pretty, isn't he? Come on, little fella, look at you. It's not really ideal, is it, to kill them like this? Tens of thousands of possums, deer and birds are poisoned every year. Young animals not poisoned are left to die of cold, hunger, predation or secondary poisoning. The brush-tailed possum is native to Australia and was introduced to New Zealand in 1837 to establish a lucrative fur trade. Possums are now well established across most of the country, and although they browse forests, their impact on biodiversity is exaggerated. The $200 million pest industry relies on the retention of the public's fear of biodiversity loss to ensure their budgets are justified. I think I'm going to call you Nick Smith. How about that? It's got a ring to it. Come on. All of the female possums found the day after the drop had live joeys in their pouches. Vets suggest that there will be poison in the mother's milk, but it may be diluted, and a lethal dose of poison may not be consumed by the time the mother dies. It is common to find poisoned possum, pig and deer carcasses in streams. Clause 11 on hunting permits issued by the Department of Conservation states, carcasses and offal must not be left near or in waterways. No one is required to clear the streams of poisoned animals after the Department of Conservation aerial poison drops, and the toxic carcasses are left to decompose where they fall. The manufacturer's warning label states, "This product is toxic to wildlife. Birds and mammals feeding on carcasses of contaminated animals may be fatally poisoned," and 1080 wastes are ecotoxic. This study highlights the risk of contamination in eels.
Detection of 1080 in the muscle tissue of an eel 9 days after it last consumed possum gut tissue containing residual 1080 suggests that the metabolism and excretion of sublethal doses of 1080 in longfin eels may be slower than in mammals and birds.
This gives you an example of the size of the thing. Quite chunky.
It's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Another
piece there. And a piece here. No, it's well under the sand now, that sucker. Despite what the Department of Conservation will tell you, or TB Freak, are still, as we know, dropping right across these streams, and this is a significant stream. Later that afternoon, we met up with local farmer Hugh Buchanan and his sister Michaela.
Lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty little fella. What's that, just a young
Yearling, eh?
yearling? Boy, it probably only needs half a bait, the little sucker. Yeah, it's not totally frozen, it's obviously rigor mortis. Rigor mortis sits in pretty quick.
Look at it dripping, it's just dripping something.
Oh, it's leaking.
Yeah.
How far is it to your farm edge there?
100 metres, is it?
100 metres off the farm, Michaela. And they need to be eerily dropping. Hey? You don't like deer, you fellas?
No, I love them.
You love the deer?
Yeah.
So you don't like to see them poisoned then?
No.
No.
Not at all.
No. Waste of thing, eh?
Listen to the birds in here too, there's none.
Yeah. Right, isn't it? How many drops been in this area?
Well, 3 or 4. Yeah. That'll kill the pigs, won't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, you won't want to eat the pigs for a while.
No. So that's Mum.
Oh, that's Mum there. Yeah, she's, look at her eyes, she's sort of bursting a bit out there. Eh? Got that red bulging eye look, eh? Yeah. So what's the story here? Did they give you a warning about this drop? What was the story?
Yeah, I told the guy to tell me when they were going to do it, and he never did. I was pigging the day before they dropped it.
And why would you want to know?
In case I was out here mustering with my dogs or pig hunting.
Because once again your farm's just, what, 100 metres that way?
Yeah, at the most, 100 metres. I dare say my working dog wouldn't have to eat much of that, and he'd die too, wouldn't he?
Oh yeah. 12 days after the drop, the farmer phoned to say that he'd found another poisoned deer, this time on his grassland.
Yeah, quite concerned about this. You got all the working dogs, bulls and that here. This sort of stuff just turns up. Been 2 weeks, I didn't even know this was here till I put these cattle in the paddock. You know, working dogs got to shift the cattle and the sheep and everything. How are we supposed to run our farm when they just keep dropping this crap everywhere? It's hard to farm these farms without dogs. You know, how do I shift these bulls now?
You didn't tell me there's bulls there.
All bulls.
It's all good country, this, isn't it? It's all nice, accessible country, surrounded by farm, really. It's a big tongue that comes out. Yeah. And looking at the flight charts, you can see that the buffer zone's just 100 metres there. So this deer's probably eaten the bait in there, come out here for a feed, died out here. And it's quite common, isn't it, Steve?
Very common, yeah.
We've had several dead poisoned deer on farms lately.
Yeah, this used to be nice bush back in the old days. There are heaps of native birds in there. Now, how many can you hear?
Not many.
No.
Research conducted by Landcare research scientists between 2002 and 2005 observed 17 species of birds at Pirongia and compared them with Mangatautari. They reported that no counts increased at Pirongia. Counts of grey warbler, rosella and silvereye all declined significantly, and there was weak evidence for declines of bellbird and fantail. Mount Pirongia has been aerially poisoned in 1996, 2002, 2007 and 2014. Over 1 million hectares of New Zealand forests will be aerially poisoned this year. The results, conveniently, are hidden behind the walls of the forest, so it is easy to ignore. The justification used is that the poison drops save bird populations. However, there is still no credible, scientific evidence in the public domain that demonstrates a net population benefit to native species through the use of 1080 poison. There is backing for the use of 1080 in New Zealand. The following organisations support the aerial spreading of the poison. The New Zealand government owns the factory that imports and distributes 1080 poison.